welcome to another episode of Muckrakers. Justin and I are here ready to go. We have a great topic of discussion today. I think you guys are going to get fired up. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, it's a pretty hot topic.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people are confused about what's going on, and you want to kind of go over it?
Yeah, why don't we'll just throw it out there to everybody. We're going to talk about news media today. News media had reporters that actually went out, looked at the facts, came back, wrote an article, and it would align really well. The radios would say basically the same thing the newspapers would. The Beaumont newspaper would say the same thing as the New York newspaper. And media was basically focusing on facts. What we're going to talk about is the difference between fact-based journalism, social media, television media, and what it's gotten crazy out there with the social media movement and the TV stuff, and the YouTubes and the Rumbles and all the different ways. I'm just pumped, man. Yeah. There's so many ways we communicate today, and how do you figure this out, Justin? Yeah. I mean, what's real and what's fake?
That's the question. So effectively, the media is, like you said, supposed to get us our news. So when we get our news, we expect those people to give us the truth, right? Something about when it's written on paper from somebody else, you expect it, unless it's explicitly told as a fiction,
right?
You say, okay, it's news, it's got to be fact.
Right.
But interestingly, it's kind of a new paradigm these days, right?
Facts?
Facts, yeah.
Yeah,
facts
that is a new paradigm.
So, the way facts are presented tends to, it's how it's presented will cause you, as the reader or the observer, to react. So the issue that I have nowadays with some of the media sites, you got CNN, MSNBC, throwing some names out there. They'll throw some information your way, and meanwhile, while they're throwing their information or the information that they've gathered, they'll insert their opinion. Now, it may be nonchalant or it may be overt. The fact of the matter is, they throw an opinion in there, which ultimately causes a reaction from its audience. So this happens to readers from a few just newspapers and journals that are out there. And these are things that you have to be aware of, because otherwise, unbeknownst, you could read something and then next thing you know, you might be getting mad over a story that wasn't properly told. You're only given half the story. So it's very important to look at the entire picture. Well, how do you do that? And that's what we're going to do. Great.
Hey guys, that's the introduction. If that excited you, you definitely don't want to leave, because we are going to dig down deep. Because you know us muckrakers, man, we're all about life, liberty, and hope. Journalism, the gathering and organizing of information. There was a time in our country where journalists were a proud profession.
Yeah.
That's who we counted on to tell us what was going on around the world. And they basically gave us the news, information that was actually happening. Very seldom was it opinioned, or was it non-objective. It was just, here's what's happening. You decide.
Yeah.
Now today, we have op-eds, we have editorialism, we have opinions, we have entire networks now that really give very questionable news reports. It's more op-ed and lots of opinion, and as you're going to talk about in a minute, it's very leaning left or right politically.
Right. So one of the things that I'd like to ask you, a little bit of a charged question here, is how do you know they were giving you the truth back in the 80s, 70s, 60s? How do you know that? As far as 1930s, think about this. News organizations, certain corporations, they were utilized as propaganda machines so that they could, I'll give you a hint, World War II, they needed to get war bonds. So they sold war bonds how? By propagandizing certain things so that people would get pumped and say, you know what, I'm going to throw some money at these war bonds so we can pay for the war. Well, I mean, you kind of have to do that, but you got to also see what was going on. You have to see it. Now, what's happened is with social media, since you've brought it up, is that social media allows us a lot more communication. We have the ability to look in many different places to find the truth. So the good news is you can try 3 or 4 different sources and identify what the whole story is. One organization might only give one half of the story here. Another organization might give the other half, and you can kind of put it together and assimilate what the real story is and make your own decision. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually show you how to do that on this show today. That'll be later, but my main thing is I want to bring that up.
Okay.
And,
yeah, because there was a time when we had ABC, CBS, NBC. That's it.
That's it.
It was. And those three guys, they tracked, all right? They typically tracked. Now, how much did they track appropriately? Who knows?
Yeah, you'll never know.
But they tracked. And so, but today, there is no traction. I mean, and one of the things we're going to talk about, and you're going to show us, is you can look at a news story, and depending on your political perspective, you're going to find that the media caters to that perspective.
Exactly. The mainstream media.
The mainstream media.
Yeah, mainstream media, that's
right.
Who we just said, plus Fox, NBC. I'd say Fox is in there, but maybe some people wouldn't.
Well, they're large. I think mainstream is basically just
ABC,
very
ABC.
large, funded well, and they're in multiple areas.
So New York Times, Washington Post.
Those are all mainstreamers. Yeah.
So, and like I said, Fox is well funded, so they
Absolutely.
I throw them into the mainstream media.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
Even though they go against the grain, and they're the others talk smack about Fox all the time.
No way.
Yeah, no.
But even doing
Brian Stelter coming out.
Oh yeah.
Those Fox guys, when are they gonna get vaccinated? And it's maybe they already have. It's not really your.
It's not your area to talk about.
Are you their doctor? I mean, come on. These are areas that you can't talk about.
But the people need to know where they can get accurate information, because news is really about sharing information.
And whose perspective? Like, what perspective are you going at it to report on it?
Yeah, am I as a news outlet, am I trying to gather you as a viewer so I can propagandize? Or am I trying to gather you just so I can inform you of things that are happening out there in the world? All right. I always wanted when I was in college, I thought it'd be really great to start my own news network, and all we would do was put out good stories of happiness, stories of heroes.
Yeah.
Nobody was interested.
Nobody's interested in that.
No, we want the bad, sad stuff, the blowing up stuff. Where are we at war with? Who's taking advantage of who? What politician has got a scandal going?
If it bleeds, it leads.
That's news.
Yeah.
All right? And I think our culture has gotten a little tired of some of that. But again, with social media, as you already said, all of a sudden, everyone's a journalist.
Yeah, everybody's a journalist.
Everyone's a journalist, and therein is the real challenge.
Yeah.
Facebook, a journalist.
Yeah.
Because you can say what you want, and there's no fact checking.
Right. Exactly.
And that's...
Well, and certain situations have occurred recently where a video has been taken, a full-length video of something has happened. I'll give you an example. So a lot of people are up in arms with the January 6th insurrection.
Right.
So, but if you take a look at all the different instances of videos that are coming out, I mean, there were a few areas that were violent, but mostly you'll see people saying, or yelling actually, be peaceful, the cops are willing to help, the cops are, they're letting us go in, this is our right, they're telling us this is our First Amendment right, they're working with us, and by the way, the police is right next to them.
They're right next to them. Yep.
And you hear them say it, but,
and we're going to play that video.
Yeah, we need to.
We're going to play that video.
We need to.
Okay? So
that's a big deal. And the thing is at first, only certain parts of the videos are being released into the public to really engage them in the wrong way, get their anger up, and throw words at this is an insurrection, and I'm not sure what's going on, why people are jumping to conclusions so fast. We need to get all the facts before you can actually make a statement. I think that's where a lot of the problem is. This news is coming out, and Here's an instance. I know I'm talking a long time, but I want to tell you something. There was a situation where I went on Facebook and I'm scrolling through the news and I see a headline. Everybody's going to lose their power this weekend or something. I'm ad-libbing. I tried to find it. I couldn't find it. Everybody's going to, And so I clicked on it because it was my area, and I clicked on it, and I look in there, and nothing in there did it say that we were going to lose our power. It just said, the power company is actually working on a few things, upgrading them due to the ice storm. That's it. And not to worry that anybody's going to actually lose any power. And sure enough, nobody lost their power. But that's the problem. People are looking at these headlines.
You mean things like 100 million people are going to die. They're going to die. Quick, get your mask, get your PPE. Quick, 100 million people are going to die in the next 3 months.
I've lost.
And it was everywhere. And it was everywhere.
He's lost me.
I know you don't know what I'm talking about, probably.
I'm feeling sick all of a sudden.
But I'm afraid that hyper media. I think it's become more problematic in today's culture than it's ever been before. In fact, we had, our past president dubbed part of the media. What they call it? What he dubbed it. He gave it his own name. What was it?
It was the fake media.
Fake media. The fake news network. The FNN. Fake news network. And I'm gonna be honest. Over the last...
I hope you're honest. That's what the show's about.
I'm as honest as guy. You know me. Pastor Billy's honest. So
there you go.
We sit around and we talk about this all the time, my wife and I. And other folks that I know. We talk about the value of the media. We need the media.
Yeah, we've got to have
We need the media.
They're protected by the First Amendment. Right?
Yeah, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
The reason we have the media, it's a checks and balances, especially in our political world. They're supposed to be the ones asking the hard questions of our politicians.
Right.
And holding their feet to the fire.
Yeah.
And we've gotten into a situation today, and it's scary.
Yeah.
Politically speaking, it's really scary because many of the mainstream media outlets, they're not really any longer about looking and protecting the people.
Yeah.
They're about moving and making money and moving narratives a certain way. Let's take the story and let's bend it a certain way so that it gives you a particular calculated output.
Yeah.
And
because it is calculated. That's the thing. Folks, you got to understand, the media, it's all about the bottom line. They are an organization that has to make money. They're all they do, the way they make money is through commercials. So if they're not getting the clicks that they need, if they're not getting the viewership that they need, then they've got to raise the bar. Well, what's the raise the bar, Billy? Raising the bar is
more craziness.
Yeah.
More craziness.
Yep.
And
so sensationalization, that's the biggest thing.
I like that word, sensationalization.
It's a lot of
I thought of myself as being sensational without the Asian.
Yeah. Well, become a media personality, you can really get there quick. So, on that note, let's take a break.
Okay, guys, thank y'all for hanging in there. I mean, we got the good stuff now. Have you ever heard of activists versus journalists? Well, Justin, what's the difference?
So it's a good difference. Let me start with the simple part. Journalist and journalism is very simple. You go out to a site, you see something that's happened, and you report the facts, all the facts, the best of your knowledge, right? You got as much information, you write it all down, you put it in some kind of media format, and then you provide it to your audience. So that's what journalism is. Now, what's happened is some people have taken the journalist's job and has pushed in their opinions on certain things. And not only that, they, again, going back to what we said earlier, what they do is they'll retract certain facts and they don't necessarily state the whole story because they want you to believe a certain thing. And they hide these facts because it's going to debunk what their opinion is. And that, when you see this, again, going back to what we were just saying, when you read stuff, you expect people who write stuff down or is in front of a camera and talking to you, you expect them to be truthful.
Right.
And what's happening is activists are taking charge and they are omitting certain parts, inserting their opinion over facts, or I should say, overlaying their opinions onto facts. And then next thing you know, you're looking at this like, oh my God, you're again going.
Yeah. So if you editorialize a fact, let's say you editorialize a fact,
Right.
is it any longer a fact once you've editorialized or
It's tarnished.
edited it?
Yeah.
Or left out. Here's a video, and all this stuff happened, and if you cut out just a small piece of it, you can totally give it a different meaning and expression.
Yeah.
And that's part of our challenge today.
So here's what happened to Ron DeSantis, right, with 60 Minutes. So 60 Minutes had a video segment. It was rather large. And what did they do? They cut it down to fit a certain narrative. And so all you saw, and I should say, not only did they cut it down, they also took certain parts out in the middle. So they actively deceived its audience.
Right.
And so that annoys me because, me and my wife like to watch 60 Minutes. Not anymore. Not because they did that.
Right.
Because, I can't trust that they're going to do the same things. DeSantis was sitting there laying it out for everything that he was doing, calling things as they were and telling certain situations that, this is false information. Let me clarify the false stuff. Let me tell you what the true stuff is. Here it is all. And here I am telling you this entire thing. 60 Minutes took this part out and this part out and this part out and then tried to pin DeSantis as a scumbag when he actually turned out to be the hero.
Right.
So
it's part of that agenda.
Yeah.
We want to build a narrative, and we see it a lot today, especially in your what I would call your more left-leaning news outlets.
Yeah.
We see the negative side of every issue a lot more.
Yeah.
As the prominent storyline, and so and there's not that many of the opposite types of media out there anymore.
Right.
Okay. You've got, you've got your MSNBCs, your CBSs, your ABCs, your those types of outlets, CNN, and all of those kind of lean objectively in one direction. And then you have the Fox News, the Newsmax, the OANs, and some other outlets that kind of tend to lean a different direction on the opposite spectrum. The question is, where are the facts?
Why are people just talking about the facts?
Yeah, I mean, I may not like the answer. I may not like what's happening, but I watch the news to be informed, not to be manipulated.
Yeah.
And too many of the news outlets today are trying to manipulate people in certain directions, and I'm going to be honest, that's not their constitutionally protected right.
Yeah, at least you wouldn't think so.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah, if you're throwing out opinions into your facts and you're smearing people, then again, on an earlier podcast, I talked about Mr. Sandman. He was smeared everywhere. Everybody smeared him. But the good news is he came out on top. But the fact of the matter is he shouldn't have had to do that. Right. The news organization should have had that responsibility of saying, you know what, we just need to talk about the facts and what exactly happened there, and they didn't. Well,
quite a few of the media outlets today, they really come more across as activists.
Yeah.
Okay, they really do. They don't come across as quality journalists. They to me, this is Billy's opinion.
Yeah.
And I watch a lot of different news channels, and I really want to keep up with what's going on out there in the world and locally, even locally. And the way journalism is moved in a lot of arenas, not everywhere, but in a lot of arenas, it feels like I'm just watching an activist speak as they give me their thoughts on how something happened.
Yeah. So that's a good hypothesis to uncover, and then to prove it. What do? You take a look at what's going on in the news, and I'll give you a good example.
Okay.
So Chevy Volt safety investigation. So what happened was Chevy Volt was one of the early electric vehicles that Chevy built. Really, actually a pretty decent vehicle, but it got some bad press, and so there was a reason behind the bad press. I don't want to get into that right now, but I'm going to tell you the power of the media. What happened was the Chevy Volt they did a test run or test crash, and they totaled it. And so it sat in wherever their disposal area is for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And then it started a fire. Just
sitting there.
Yeah, just sitting there. Just started a fire 3 weeks later.
Oh my gosh.
But the way it was reported was that Chevy Volts blow up and will kill everybody around you and then hunt your family down and kill them too. So don't buy a Chevy Volt.
Don't buy one.
Yeah, so don't buy one. And so totally just ruined the reputation of this great vehicle. And to me, I'm just like, well, that is activism. That tells you, that puts people in a super panic where they can't even think.
Right.
They can't even think, hey, I better find the other facts. I don't even want to think about it. They just want to say, oh my God. That's so far-fetched. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. To me, if it's far-fetched, I have to double-check. But in some cases, some of these stories are so far-fetched that they're like, panic mode, just automatic, panic button, boop.
Yeah, and media has a lot of power in our culture.
Yeah.
Media has massive, I mean, think about it. Say you're a police officer. You're doing your job.
Yeah.
You're following the laws, and you're doing your job, and you're making an arrest, a criminal arrest, not anything that's improper. Criminal being arrested
by the book,
following the rules and the laws and the policies appropriately. Okay, but you got all these people with their phones everywhere. They're all journalists. Yeah. They're all little journalists.
Yeah.
And that's the culture we live in. Everybody and whatever goes out, it all goes out. It's everywhere. And everybody's a journalist, and yet you still will end up with storylines that will just have pieces or specific angles, and they'll build a scenario. It may be factual, but it may not be factual.
Right.
And so, my question is really this: how do we get back to a factual news media that encourages people with truth, and it doesn't create more discourse, because that's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Life, liberty, and hope is not about discourse.
Yeah.
We're about truth and helping one another and encouraging one another and motivating and inspiring one another. And so that's why we're talking about this particular subject, because there's been so much fake news over the last decade. We saw it hugely amongst the last presidential administration.
Yes,
and
very
it was an all-out attack. It was, the administration was at war.
It was a litany of just...
Okay? And it was not so much what they were talking about, it was the perspectives in which they used to talk about them.
Exactly.
All right?
It was always this perspective. So you were saying two things. Or you were saying that what can we do? How do we get back to just news? And I really think there's two things. First, you got to separate the news from the entertainment industry.
Okay.
Entertainment industry should not own news. I don't think so.
Okay, now describe, what's the difference? Give me an example of the difference between the entertainment news / the...
So Disney makes movies, right? Disney makes movies. They make all these different fictional shows that we really like to enjoy. Right. Those make money.
Sure.
A lot of them make money. Some of them don't. When they don't, they cancel them. Well, these entertainment companies are treating news like that. If the news doesn't make the money, then they're going to cancel that, because it needs to keep bringing money back into the big corporation. My thought is, if you the first step would be separate the two out, possibly create a .org, make a nonprofit, make news nonprofit, and then you got to have some good people with big hearts, big souls to come in there and be journalists.
Right. Right.
Don't do it for the money, do it for the job, do it for the thrill.
Right.
So, and that's the things I think needs to happen if you want to have a good news.
Yeah.
So, and then the .org get the free speech benefits.
Right. Well, I think it's so important in our country that we have a news system that we can trust.
Yeah, exactly.
And right now, with quote unquote the fake news, I was looking something up while you were talking. Here's fake news definition: false or misleading information presented as news. It often has an aim at damaging the reputation of something, someone, or an organization of some type.
Right.
So fake news is by definition destructive.
Yeah, it's very destructive.
Fact-based news can be encouraging, depending on the types of stories.
Yeah.
Local hero saves baby from fire. Wow.
Yeah.
But we don't see a lot of those stories anymore. We really have to go out there and search the internet for the positive stuff.
Yeah.
There's always a lot of the negative stuff.
Yeah.
And something else I've seen most news turn into now. News now is turned into essentially talk shows.
Yeah, that's all it is nowadays.
Okay. Muckrakers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
okay.
that's what brought us about as Muckrakers, because now we can sit there and we're not journalists. We don't necessarily need to be, but I mean, the thing is, we're talking about this stuff. It's just that's.
Well, we want to, well, our goal is not to be journalists and provide news stories.
Right.
Our goal really is to talk about issues that are out there in different parts of our life, different arenas.
Yeah, exactly.
And challenge everyone, including ourselves. How do you separate out what's good for you and what's not good for you?
It's a lot like eating food. If you eat fruit and vegetables, your body's going to get bigger, stronger. It's going to develop.
Yes.
If you eat sludge, your body's obviously going to start going down. You eat marshmallows, too many marshmallows, your body's going to go.
But chocolate brownies are perfectly acceptable because they fall into the nutritional category under the food chart. Just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Point is, you are what you eat. Same thing with news. If you digest good news, then it brings your spirits up. If you digest bad news, then your spirit goes down. And you're going to live your life that way, right? Yeah. You're not going to be a very happy person. So,
I wonder how many of our viewers right now yell at the news at night.
Or just turned it off because it's so disgusting.
It's so disappointing and distracting and discouraging. I mean, I know people who like to watch news, but they can't watch the news anymore because it is so depressing.
Yeah, they just shut it off.
Yeah,
and because it's like
because it's not news anymore,
and they don't know what really is going on.
Right,
and that's the question that you have now. This will lead us into the next segment of this podcast. So let's take a break, Billy.
Let's do it. I'm feeling a break coming on.
Yeah, me too.
We'll be right back. Hey, we're so glad you came back. And we're not here to tell you which channels to watch, which is good for your family and what's not good for your family. We're just here to discuss the differences and really why you should pick, and be very careful how you pick and who you pick. Which channels do you watch? Because we want your family to grow and be inspired about the greatness of this country and the greatness of the state. Here's some things that you can do to better identify what's the right type of news outlet your family should be engaged in. Take it, Justin.
I've got a couple of pointers I'd like to read out to you. So the first one is to spend a little bit of time to get the entire picture. We talked about that a little earlier. If you don't get the full picture, then you can't really make a good assessment of what's going on. And once you get that full picture, use critical thinking. Start asking questions. How did this happen? Why did it happen? What perspective is going on here? And then try to kind of just imagine yourself in that situation. And that's
the next one's my favorite.
You've got to be honest with yourself. Are you really happy with this journalist's reporting? So that in itself is a very big one. And then when you're honest with yourself, then you can be realistic, which is number 4. And then look for various points of view. Don't just get it from, say, CNN and MSNBC. You might want to consider also getting it from OAN or Fox News. Now, I know they're different sides, but that's the point. You want the full picture. You want the right and the left. And possibly if you can find something in the center, which doesn't sound like there's a whole lot out there, but we'll show you where those are. So stay tuned.
Well, so what you're saying is we need to find news outlets not from the perspective of finding someone that's saying what I want to hear.
Yes.
Which I think is what's happening.
Yeah.
And the news media outlets, they're fine-tuning what they say so they can get the largest crowd based on what they're saying, because people want to hear certain things.
Yeah, exactly.
We should be finding outlets.
Or it triggers them.
Exactly.
Right.
We should be finding outlets that give us information not based on what we want to hear, but what's true and honest.
Yeah. That's what it boils down to.
I like that.
And then of course, any of the news that you get, you should really take it with a grain of salt, because there's always three sides, right? There's your side, there's my side, and then there's the right side. So just take it with a grain of salt, and then listen to other people. You know, you get on Twitter and you try to kind of just ask some questions, and people you'll see in Twitter, they get all in their tone, the words they use, you can tell that they're getting frustrated because they don't really know the full picture, but you're asking questions, but it's not something that jives with their train of thought. And it's
I don't tweet.
Open up.
I don't tweet.
You don't tweet?
I don't tweet. You know why I don't tweet?
Because it's a cesspool?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Social media has unleashed the freedom of the lip.
Yes.
That's what.
It's
the freedom of the lip, because there's things I would never say to you personally, face to face.
Exactly.
But in our culture, we seem to feel free to type it out because we're not really saying it to you.
Yeah, exactly. We're typing it.
We're going into Never Land, but that's not real. That's again, like you said, number 4. That's not realistic.
That's right. Be realistic.
Right.
It's extremely important.
Right.
So,
what else you got?
For the most part, like I said before, you know, the fake news has been around a long time. It's been since the 80s, the 30s, and it's been used to propagandize. But again, going back to now, we have information sources everywhere. I have a question for you, hot topic.
I'm not ready. Go.
Why isn't anybody talking about Maricopa County right now?
It doesn't fit the narrative of the mainstream.
That's right. So why though? What's the deal? Are they scared that something's going to come up? These are the questions. I'm mocking this up where you sit there and say use critical thinking and ask a lot of questions. So go back to say, and you can't just automatically say, well, because the president has already been elected. That's fine, but there's a why that we need to.
We're chasing in Maricopa County. They're chasing after truth.
Yes.
Now,
why don't we want to hear the truth? That's the question.
Well, that's
regardless of the output.
That's the real question. That happens to be for the mainstream is we're going to put it out there if the truth aligns with our narrative that we want to propagate to the society in which we're leading.
Yeah. All
right. Maricopa County right now doesn't appear to, at least so far, with some of the news things that we've seen, some of the information, it doesn't look like it's going to pan out exactly like the mainstream media wants it to. And the narrative that's going to come out of Maricopa County is going to be a tad different, it appears. And so you're not going to see it on the mainstream because it's not saying what they want to say.
Right.
Again, we're back to we're not interested in putting out all the news. We're only interested in putting out the types of stories and news that tell the story that we, the mainstream media, want to tell.
Yeah, and if it doesn't fit that narrative, then they try to twist it.
Right.
So
that's
I had
right.
a CNN reporter go out there, and the first thing she said is, we're going to get a video of this big, now I'm paraphrasing, fact checkers, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially she just was like, we're going to get a video of what's going on with the big lie. And it's like, instead of phrasing it like that, why not just say, hey, let's take a look at what's going on with Maricopa County. What is the details of this? What is exactly what's the fallout of this? And then where are we going to go to move forward with this?
Right.
We'll be a better society if we can approach things as factual versus take in the lies that some organizations are providing.
Right.
And then they're basically pushing that lie back onto you.
Yeah.
So, and then you're trying to make sense of the lie. So, and what's so crazy is there's so much of it out there.
Right.
So much of the lie out there from all these different organizations. You're getting inundated. Even with the fact checkers, you take a look at the fact checking organizations, and they even purport the lies.
Right.
And it's just amazing. I see some of these, like for example, here's a good one. President Joe Biden is in a pickup truck yesterday. He's got his hands at 2 and 10.
It's a beautiful picture.
It's a good picture.
Yeah.
But what's funny is there's also a steering wheel over here, and somebody else has got their hands up. So the question I have
it's
to
a
ask,
student vehicle.
the question is, Who's the student? Right? And so why is a vehicle... I mean, these are questions that I think are important to know, because if our president isn't capable of driving himself from place to place,
which he doesn't do anyway.
Granted, he doesn't do it anyways, but the fact of the matter, they put him in that position to look like it, that's concerning. And it's just the idea of photo opping, it just further says, hey, we're lying to you.
We're telling you what we want you to see.
We are telling you what we want you to see. We are blatantly lying to you, and you're going to accept it.
Yep. Well, there's something that happened yesterday in the state of Texas that I want you to look for. Let's see how many places it pops up as a news story.
Okay.
Because it's pretty good, believe it or not. Something really positive came out of the Texas legislature yesterday.
Oh, what happened?
A heartbeat bill was signed into law for the state of Texas.
Right.
Probably.
That actually came out. I do remember seeing that because they said Texas has one of the. So here's the spin. Texas has some of the harshest. That's what they said.
Yeah, harshest.
Harshest laws against abortion. It's like, why don't you see? That's the spin we're talking about. They spin the words around. Why don't you just say Texas loves life?
That's it. Hey, I mean, come on. Again, life, liberty, hope.
Yeah. Texas loves life, so we made a law to make it harder for people to kill an unborn baby.
Exactly.
To me, it's like, why can't you report on that?
Right.
So,
but just continue to watch. You know, hey guys, everybody out there that's watching this, you just continue to look at different news medias and watch the difference in the way that story is provided to you via the different outlets you choose to watch. And one side's going to say, oh my gosh, we're interrupting the death program of babies, and the other one's going to say, hooray, we're saving people.
Yeah. Yeah, which side do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the one that murders babies, or do you want to be on the side that saves babies?
Well, I'm on the side of life.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about the legislation. Thank you to the governor for finally doing the right thing.
Right.
And but that's just one of those examples of how the storylines are going to be skewed depending on who talks about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so so you guys watch that one, and there's a lot more stories coming down the line, but I think that's a good one for you to do a comparison with. And well, we're getting close to out of time.
Yeah.
What else you got? You want to?
I think the last thing to conclude, we just want to sit there and say, the ability to receive information is almost unlimited.
Yes.
You just got to look for the right places. One of the things that we're going to do is show you a great resource, fantastic resource called Ground News. We're going to show you how to utilize Ground News to find the different perspectives so that you can see both sides, and even some centered, believe it or not. So, stay tuned to that, because it's a very powerful tool. We are not necessarily endorsing Ground News, but I felt it was very important. Billy and I thought it was very important to present Ground News, because if you're really interested in finding real news with facts, Ground News is going to be your source.
Yeah.
So be careful. There are other apps that purport to show the real news, and they'll have smart names like real news, and it's like you look at it, it's all left-wing stuff. So just be aware of that. Some folks will actually use positive names and push that as news source, and what they're doing is they're just
that's right.
Bearing the lie.
Exactly right.
So,
exactly.
And as far as I'm concerned, with respect to some of these bigger organizations, the truth with them is 6 feet deep. They don't care, and they don't want to care. They care about the dollar.
Yep.
And that's what they chose a side. And the side is not truth; it is the dollar. And as much as I like capitalism, they're using it to their advantage. So capitalism is not supposed to be like that. That's actually crony capitalism. Right. We'll get into that another day. Yep. But just throwing my 2 cents in there.
Great show.
Yeah.
Good information.
Awesome.
Hey folks, we just want to let you know that your reception of news is based on you. It's not based on the people giving the news. It's based on you receiving the news. Be very careful. We want to encourage you to find the right place to find the right news, and we can control that. We don't have to watch the news that is propagandish. You do not have, you can change that channel. And I want to encourage all our listeners, change that channel. Quit watching these stations that depress you, discourage you, demotivate you, and do anything other than bring you some truth. Because it's not going to make you a better person. It's not going to give you the tools to communicate to your neighbors about what's going on in the world. And here at Muckrakers, our goal, again, is to focus on life, liberty, and hope. You can always count on us to bring to you, to the best of our ability, conversations of truth that will inspire, motivate, and call you into challenge so that you can become a greater person, a better family, and love your kids, love your communities, love your county, state, and this great country we call America. Don't give up. We're going to keep fighting for truth. We're going to keep fighting for right, and you can count on us to be there. If you have information about some different topics you'd like us to discuss, we love looking into the research, and we'll do the work for you. Go to our website. It'll be on the end of this broadcast. Send us a note, send us a message, and we will talk about it. Throw it out there at you. Justin, it's been fun. Thanks, buddy.
Yep.
We'll see you next time around, brother. And guys, we'll see you next week on, that's right, Muckrakers, home of life, liberty, and hope.
All right. Bye-bye.
You got to start now. If you don't know where to go, this is the first place you can go to.